All right, we're back. I think we're back. Yeah, we're back on YouTube. I always have to double check with YouTube. Sometimes it likes to battle me here. Anyways, it looks like everything's coming through nice. Hopefully everyone is having a good day. We are on to our second dump of the week. We had obviously the large dump that everyone's aware of going into the week on Monday. And just an hour or two ago, as I'm starting my day, I started a little bit late today, was up late last night editing a podcast. We have our second dump, and we're, for the first time, we're testing this 3,700 level, right? So it's a little bit different than the test we had at the beginning of the week, right? When we stopped right at 37, that support that I had highlighted. This time, we dumped all the way through, right? And what I want to spend the first 5 or 10 minutes of the stream on, before I give a quick outline of other things I want to cover, and let a few more people join, is the way that we used daily closes last week, and whether or not you like to use the daily close or 4-hour close, or if you're a smaller time frame trader and you're trading smaller time frames, right? Using the candles in that way, and even if price action isn't kind of your primary approach, I think will definitely add conviction, can add confidence, and can certainly help you understand probabilities of whether or not a level is going to hold or not. Right. So using the daily close Sunday, right, that we were looking at, or Saturday, or whenever it was when this Bitcoin dump happened, right? We were looking at Bitcoin as it approached kind of this level the previous two times when we have wicks above and closes back inside or under 4120, right? Generally, I'm not going to be bullish again. I only want to be buying if we can be closing above, right? That's when I would expect more upside. So if we wick through and close below, probably expecting downside. Right now, we're getting that to the opposite end of the spectrum, right? So daily close is going to happen in a few hours, 2 or 3 hours. And if we have a similar situation, right, if we're looking at, let me get one of these lines out of here. I'm going to go into this deeper in a second. I'm just kind of rushing through so you can see what we're going to cover. The same thing of if we have, right, this was to the upside. If we have wicks through, closes below, generally I'm going to be expecting a pullback. The exact same thing I'm going to be expecting if we only wick through here, and this is that 3,700 resistance support flip. This is also yearly open, right? A few different reasons why I like this support level. If we wick through and close back above in a few hours, generally, and just kind of thinking in terms of probabilities, that's going to tilt my bias, it's going to tilt my view, and it's going to tilt my understanding a little bit, that buying pressure was strong enough to step in. That's quite positive. And I would actually probably, have a little bit more confidence that we actually can move towards at least mid-range, 3890, 3900, and possibly back to the top of the range. Right, so that's going to be the biggest determining factor for me, whether or not that actually means that you want to enter a trade on Bitcoin, or if that's just something you're understanding and wanting to understand maybe where Bitcoin goes next, and you're looking to short. Right, that's what I want to focus on a little bit. So it's literally the exact opposite, or just kind of the other side of the range that we're now seeing a potential wick through and close back inside the range. Right, so that's what I want to cover for Bitcoin, guys. Big picture, and one of the principles and the themes that I'm going to repeat over and over again. Probably one of the first ones that I started saying on Twitter is moving slow. Right, and using that daily close is going to be very, very important today, combined with moving slow and waiting for that to happen. In poker, it's very similar to being in position. If you can see what everyone else plays, generally that's going to give you an advantage. I like to think of daily close in that same manner. If we can wait and see where the daily close is, right? Maybe I don't get my perfect entry, right? Or maybe I have to hold off. But it's going to give me a little bit more info about what to expect next, and generally I want to be waiting for that info to put me in a better position. Right? All right, let me give a quick shout out to everyone that's in here. Like I said, I posted this at the very beginning. I do have to move a little bit quicker on today's stream. We've been doing like 30 or 40 minutes. Today's might only be like 15 or 20 minutes. And that's just because I think I'll have this totally sorted by the end of the month, but my new time zone is, I don't know if my Google Calendar hasn't caught up, or maybe it's just me that hasn't caught up. I keep scheduling things like 1 hour too early, right? So I have a phone call that I just can't miss at 4 p.m. my time, so 5 p.m. Eastern, and I thought it was 1 hour later. Anyway, so I'm going to move a little bit quicker today, guys, but we will definitely be able to cover everything. I don't imagine I'm going to have to stop short. What's up, Olive, Nanad, Euros? Welcome. A couple guys in here from Serbia. What's up, Janzi? Finally back. Welcome. Maxime a little bit late, 1.5 speed. I haven't heard anyone else use that, but that's a smart little technique there. All right, guys, so we're going to be covering Bitcoin from that front. If you missed anything, I'm just going to be talking about why the daily close is important, what I'm looking at for the daily close. After that, I want to look at ETH, right? I had an update I just posted right when I jumped online about not liking ETH anymore. And it's funny, it actually might hold the same entry level that we had, right? 0.034. And even if it does hold this entry level and move up, I'm still not going to be interested in playing ETH until after we have the news from tomorrow, right? If you think back to the last fork we had when we pushed up to 0.041, that trade couldn't have worked out better, right? That's what I wanted to happen again, and it just didn't happen, right? So we have the fork. Last time the fork was delayed, we had some nasty price action. Tomorrow, whether or not the fork is delayed or whether it actually happens, I am expecting just kind of some, most of the time that's a sell the news event, and I don't particularly see a strong chance of there being, short-term bullish action. Maybe there is if Bitcoin recovers, right? I could see ETH continuing, but my gut and kind of everything, past data and everything's kind of leaning towards, I just don't really want to be sitting in ETH waiting for that. All right, so we'll talk about that. ADA is one that I've liked. We've talked about this a ton. I don't really need to update here. It literally just sits motionless. It's nice that it hasn't dumped with Bitcoin, but this is kind of turning into a little bit of a longer term play. And then all of the Binance alts that we covered, while they still look fine, I think they still look good. Nothing is like crushing today. I saw a few coins up well, but really I'm not in a rush to change or add or look at new trades until everything is kind of, for me at least, is hinging on what Bitcoin does here. Daily close, if you're curious, is in 2 hours and 20 minutes, right? So it happens at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Whatever that is in your time zone, that's in about 2 hours and 20 minutes. Shoob. All right, let's jump into it, guys. Like I said, I'm going to be quick. I apologize if I do talk too quick. Listen to me on 0.85 or something speed. I hate when I have to rush through, but I'm going to be online for the rest of the day. I have literally nothing on my schedule, so there's going to be a ton of updates this afternoon if we do have to move too quick. So what I'm looking at for Bitcoin, the view and the map, I think everyone is caught up. I don't think we have too many new people in the stream or anyone that's behind, right? Good morning, Mark. I don't think we have anyone that's behind. I think everyone understands kind of my big picture view, and it's really the same as last week, right? If I outline the range really quick, top of the range is going to be 4,200. Right? That was our target last week, 4,200. If we have the bottom of the range before I consider this 3,700, which I think is crucial, the bottom of the range as of last week, and I think a level of significance, right, is 3,630. So if I take out everything in the middle and just focus on these two, I'm going to try to make them really stand out here. One second. If I just focus on two big levels to kind of understand where we are and understand really how Bitcoin is traded for November, most of December, and most of January, most of the time has been spent in a range between 3,600 and 4,200, right? So very, very big picture. That should give you a sense. That should give you a sense of kind of, let me just delete everything real quick, start fresh. That should give you a sense of kind of where we are in the range, right? That's kind of a really kind of simple big picture primer or understanding or thing to be looking at. 3,600 up to 4,200, right? The other level that's probably been of the most focus for me is right at 3,700, right? And we've talked about this one a ton, so I'm not going to review why it's important too much, but 3,700, right? Yearly open. It was also the resistance that price was stuck under ever since the drop from 4K, right? And it's why I was so bullish last week, right? When we cross above, whoa, what is going on today, TradingView? Right when we cross above 3,700, right? That's an outright bullish sign for me, probably thinking that we moved to the top of the range. Volumes were huge last week. It was a fun week, right? So now going into this week, things are a little bit different. We started the week with a dump on Monday. I promise I'm getting to my point here. Started the week with a dump on Monday, right? Back down to this 3,700 yearly open. Also a very, very clear resistance support flip, something I use almost every single day, right? If this area was resistance, generally we get a retest, or even if it's not a clear retest, I'm just expecting that level of significance to now be support and we're above it, right? So beginning of the week, 3,700, that's what I liked. That's what price used briefly. And now we're dumping slightly through 3,700. So let's take a step back. If the big thing for me last weekend, after we had such a positive week for Bitcoin and people start talking about 5K targets and they start talking about end of the bear market and things like that, is I take a step back and I say, okay, what has Bitcoin done previous times when we're at 4120 or 4200? Right? This is when the range started. Now, if we look at how Bitcoin has reacted at that level going forward, there's been 3 very clear examples and very clear kind of situations where we can see what Bitcoin will do. Right? The first example, I'll label this one 1, right? We have a close above 4,200, right? You can see the daily close above. And what that got us a nice push up to about 4,400, right? So a close above 4,120 is going to mean at least a little bit more short-term upside. The next 2 times, right, and this is kind of what I was building my example on last weekend, is when we just have wicks above this important level, but we're closing back below. You can see the closes are actually happening slightly lower, right? So momentum is pushing, and then we actually close below. That's led to more downside. Exact same thing happened on the last one, right? We wick above, closes down below. What'd that do? It led to more downside. So going into the week and this weekend, right, that's why for me, right, I still liked Bitcoin. I liked the momentum. I liked major alts. I liked everything that it was moving up. To me, it didn't seem like a bull trap. It all seemed very positive for the market, right? But as we approach a very strong daily resistance, and the reason I have that target, right, it's been such an important level in the past, I'm not bullish again short term until we can close above this 4120, right? Whether that's a retest or just a clear push through. So when we have wicks above and closes back below, I'm gonna look for more downside, right? So now let's think of the exact flip side of that, because that's what we have now that we're on the bottom half of the range, or the bottom side of the range, right? We were at the top of the range of resistance. Now we're at the bottom of the range at support. So what am I looking at exact same way as I was the weekend, right? I was looking at wicks through, closes below, means I want to continue to play the range, expect a pullback. So here, as we have so far, and we still have 2 hours, like I said, if we wick through and looking at small time frames, you can see it's literally just a very quick wick. Oh, come on, let me click that oval. Oh, trading view, don't do this to me. Got it. Looking at smaller time frames, you can see that's just a very, very quick wick right through the level. Right, even on like 1 hour, it was immediately bought back up. No 1 hour or 4 hour closes below. So that's so far a positive sign. Obviously, the higher time frames are what I like to get for a little bit more confirmation and less noise. Right, so if we have a very similar situation of, right, 4 hours can definitely still give me a little bit of a fake out, and the daily could also give me a fake out, but generally speaking, if we get wicks above and closes below, I'm expecting more downside. Same thing, if we get a wick below and we close still above this 3,700 support, that to me is going to be a little hint, just like it was here, right? I was expecting more downside. It doesn't mean it has to happen. Sure, we could continue higher. This to me would be a hint or a sign or something that tilts me kind of probability-wise to think, okay, it's probably actually more likely that this zone can hold. If buying pressure was strong enough to push us back above, that level was defended and it's acting as support, I would start thinking that 3,900 and 4K is once again more likely. Right, so that's what I'm watching for Bitcoin, guys. Like I said, that level's in 2 hours. Whether or not you're actually trading it, I think that's going to be a really nice way to kind of think about Bitcoin trading in this range. I'm not too worried about the dump yet. You know, if this level holds and if price holds right where it's at for the next 2 hours, to be quite honest, like I said, I think that's actually constructive or slightly more positive to where we entered the Bitcoin week at. Right? Hopefully that makes sense, guys. I tried to explain that a few different ways. If I repeated myself, it was on purpose because I wanted to go over it in depth. Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, please do ask. That's something that's like literally a building block for almost every single thing you're going to do in price action. Right? Confirming a level versus kind of understanding what's noise. So many people talk about confirmations on Twitter, or whether or not a breakout is real or a fake out. That's something where it's not always going to be true, but most of the time, and you can backtest this yourself on your own levels, that's going to be very helpful. Right? So that's what I'm looking at for Bitcoin. Map's going to be the exact same. If we actually do wick below, close above, I'm looking to move to 3,880, 3,900. On the flip side, to look at this scenario, if it doesn't play out like that, right? Let's say price does continue lower and actually closes below this 37. I would view that as quite bearish. It wouldn't be outright bearish and you know, I guarantee new lows, but it would be pretty bearish. I think a lot of alts would take a slight hit, and really kind of 3630 is that last level of support where we just wick down to. If we get below 3630, I am thinking the likelihood that we actually get down to low 3Ks again is quite high. Right, so this whole zone, I guess, is kind of now the biggest determining factor. Obviously, closes above 37 are quite positive. Anything down in here is scary, and below 3,600, I think we definitely go to new lows. Right, so that's how I'm viewing Bitcoin. That's how I'm going to be playing it. Daily close for today is going to be very important, and I'll be online to cover that live. On the alt side of things, I don't have too many updates. Would I short Bitcoin if 3,700 breaks? I personally wouldn't. Not if we break and close below 3,630, then I think I get interested. I think in here, there's still a chance where it's a slight fake out, or kind of we're still holding this previous resistance zone, right? While 3,700 is kind of the clearer line. I know this is a little bit murky, but I still think above 3,630 would be fine. Below 3,630, I definitely would expect more downside. So maybe it would make sense for kind of shorter term scalps or shorts. But really, I'm not too interested. Shorts are less appealing for me right now. But that, yeah, good question. Good thing to be thinking about. I'm going to have a lot less to cover on alts. I know we've been covering a lot more Binance alts, and my view on those really remains the same. I know DNT and Loopring and a few that got nice pushes yesterday. Most of them were retraced. I think most of that and a lot of that noise is going to be based on Bitcoin, right? So things are getting some nice pushes. I still like exposure to Binance alts. The only thing that changes my view on still liking alts, and I covered this even before the down move today, is 3,700, right? So not only is that a nice deciding level or a pivotal level for Bitcoin, that's also a very pivotal level for alts, right? If we do start trading below 3,700, especially below 3,630, I think alts get pretty scary, and I'm probably going to definitely dial back risk on those alt plays. I'm probably not going to be wanting to sit in a lot of Binance alts. I'm probably not going to be wanting to look for longs in ADA and ETH, right? Just because if we look at how, you know, Bitcoin is traded in the past, when Bitcoin's moving down, generally, it's going to be very, very hard for alts to gain steam. It doesn't mean they can't, but if I just look at history, like I always like to look at, that's not going to be kind of the best scenario or best outlook for alts. So I don't have too many updates there, guys. There's just not a lot of movers, no profit takers, no new positions for me. Bitcoin is by far the biggest focus. Quick thing on ETH, right? The play last month is what I wanted to model this month's trade on, and it worked out for us for a little bit, right? We get up to 10, 15%, never got to my final target. I wanted to move slow, be patient for that target. Sometimes it works out nicely. This time it just did not. I'm going to blame Bitcoin's dump, but still, it just never reached my final target. Now, as we're back at the same level I got into the trade, right? Sure, I think ETH is price-wise attractive here, but thinking about the event tomorrow and just how that played out last time, right? All kinds of things can go wrong here, and I'm not just being negative. You know, the fork might not happen. Even if the fork does happen, generally it's kind of like when a mainnet comes out for a coin. You know, should that actually increase price short term? I can't really argue that it should. Usually it's a sell the news event. Usually if there's a lot of hype involved, people will sell anyways because they're like, well, this doesn't really change anything. Right, so I'm not too interested in ETH. I kind of want to sit on the sidelines for this for a day. If all of a sudden the fork gets pulled off phenomenally and people say, oh, well, you know, that kind of worked and maybe this is positive for ETH, then sure, maybe a new play emerges and I'll look to swing this again. But for right now, I'm not too interested in ETH again. It turned out to be a relatively small little trade here. Right, so upsetting. Was expecting this to be another kind of nice little swing. This month it turned into a small 3, 4, 5% play. That is just what the market gave me. Had to play it. And that's it, guys. I don't want to, like I said, I'm a little bit rushed today. I wish I wasn't, but that's all I can really cover. Shub, I can't give you advice on that. That just teeters a little bit too close to me giving you advice. But for me, I haven't made any changes to my Binance alts, right? If you know, all those levels that I talk about, the reason I set a stop and an invalidation level on those plays is because I generally want to keep them open until those stops or invalidation levels are hit, right? The only thing that makes me really kind of abandon my rules for alt trades is if something macro happens for Bitcoin. What I mean by that, let's say Bitcoin does break down to 3,700 here or keeps dumping below 3,630 and my other alts are sitting still, then I say, okay, you know what? Even if I have an alt that's doing okay or a stop that hasn't got hit in an alt, maybe I actually do close the alts because I think they'll probably dump too, right? That's the only thing that would make me change on those plays. So for me, I haven't changed those plays. I can't really give you advice on what you should do though, just because I just can't. Anyways, guys, that's what I wanted to cover. Biggest thing for Bitcoin is that daily close. This level for me is still fine. If anything, it's quite constructive that we bought up quick. Even if we do have kind of the perfect scenario that I want to see, a wick through and a close above, it does not guarantee that we move up. It's the same thing as last weekend. I think it does tilt the odds in our favor slightly to understanding, you know, a rule set of, okay, I don't want to buy until we're above here, and I'm probably expecting a pullback. It's the exact same thing here. Probably don't want to be shorting here just because we had a nice sell-off, right, if we're closing above, and I'm probably expecting it to move up now. It does not guarantee that's going to happen, but it does help me understand kind of whether or not a level is actually broken or still being used, or whether or not that momentum is going to continue, right? That's the biggest thing for me. I'm going to be online the rest of the day, but I just have to hop off and take this call. It is a situation that I want to get cleared up so I can really just focus on research. Anyways, guys, that's all I got. Have a good rest of your day. I will, tomorrow's stream, we won't be so rushed. Sometimes I do have one of these scheduling mix-ups. So here we are. Have a good rest of your day. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Well, I'm going to try to actually do an early stream because I think we're going to do 2 a week for the European, Asian, and Australian crowd. So I'll see you guys tomorrow, 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. Have a good day. I will talk to you all and see you all soon. Peace.